It's another time with Coach Ayo, the enthusiastic so. And in today's tutorial, it happens to be the very last class we are having on the course FMS304. It's been an interesting one so far. I've actually covered a whole lot during the course of this course, and today we're going to be concluding. It's going to be a sum up of all the classes we have been having for the past few weeks. And so for those of us who are new to the stream, let's ensure to subscribe to the channel. Let's ensure to turn on the notification bell, and most importantly, let's ensure to join the private class where we walk you through all your courses with any course unattended to. All right. So to join the private class, all you need to do is to send us a direct message through our official website, which is www.coachayo.com, and in the bottom, right hand corner, you find where it says talk to Coach Ayo. It's a button, and the moment you button, it takes you directly to where you can send us a direct message. All right, and when you send us a direct message, we'll attend to your request as fast as we can and guide you, all right, or usher you into the private class. So please do not use the comment section. Let us know where you're streaming from. Do not to say hello. Do not to say hi. Let's acknowledge your presence. So with this being said, let's hop straight into today's class. All right. According to the thumbnail, we are taking our bearing from population and sampling. Population and sampling. Population and sampling is a term I believe we must have heard of before now. All right, population and sampling. All right, it's a term I believe we must have heard of one way or the other. All right, because we have come this far and we have actually talked a lot about different terminologies, which I believe population and sampling must have been touched. All right, we must have said something about it before now. So without further ado, because we're going to be moving at a very reasonable pace into this class. So this class is not going to be a long one at all because we are already almost done with the course material. So we are going to be talking about, we're going to be moving at a very reasonable pace. So when we talk about population, all right, when we talk about population has a lot to do. It has a lot to do with, all right, the study. All right, this is the group of individuals or objects, all right, that you have one or more characteristics in common that are of interest to the researcher. So the population is more of a general study, all right. It could be group, individuals, it could be objects, all right. That general, all right, or group or total object you are making your research on. Now, according to Best and Kahn, okay, according to Best and Kahn in 1995, Best and Kahn says population is any group of individuals that have one or any group of individuals that have one or more characteristics in common that are of interest to the researcher. All right. So we have group individuals with something in common that the researcher, something in common that is of interest, all right, that is of interest to the researcher, okay, of interest to the researcher. Now, the point here is when we talk about population, it is very important in every study. Now, population can also be seen as that general figure, or just a moment, let's use the backup. Okay, then backup is active. So it says here we have a sample. You can consider population as the general or the total or the cumulative figure whereby your area of concentration is found. So you're talking about carrying a research on public schools in Ikorodu or public school in a local government in Abuja. Definitely, you're carrying research on public school in a local government. You don't expect to have just one public school in a whole local government. All right. So that local government as a whole, local government entirely, could have up to 30 public schools. All right. And each of these public schools have nothing less than 5,000 to 6,000 students. Okay. So it will be very difficult, if not almost impossible, for you to carry out your investigation on all the public schools in that local government. All right. So when you're talking about all the public schools in that local government, that is the population. All right. That's the general area of interest. But when we not talk about sampling or sample, so if you now say, okay, in this local government, there are 50 public schools, but I'll be out of these 50, I'll be carrying out my research on. Don't forget, all of them are being run by the same institution, same states. All right. So their module operandi, their level of their way of carrying out activities are all the same. So by the time you run your research on just 10 carefully selected ones, which is now your sample, which is a smaller unit extracted from the main population, all right, then you have that as sample. A sample is a small proportion of the population selected for observation. Okay, that's a sample. A small proportion of the population, all right, deliberately, intentionally selected for specific observation or for specific analysis. So with that, you can tell that your research work will not be a white elephant project. So what is the purpose of sampling? So we'll talk about sampling. The primary purpose of sampling is to make research feasible, all right, by enabling the study of a small representative subset. Now, when we talk about subsets, we are talking about some elements out of the universe. All right, the universe is what carries all the elements. But let's talk about the subset. We are talking about the element from a main set or from the universe. So the sample is a subset of the population. All right. So the primary purpose of sampling is to make research feasible by enabling the study of small representative subset of a larger population for the purpose of what? Accuracy. okay, to draw accuracy and also cost effect to reduce cost. So now we have that as that. So we have types and okay, I think it's stable now. So still under the types of sampling, okay, we have probability sampling and we have the non-probability sampling. Now, for the non-probability sampling, it's a type of sampling where you do not know the probability of each population element being included in sample. Now, they are known to generate, all right, biased samples that are not truly representative of the target population from which they are drawn. Now, any sample that is non-valid can encourage errors in finding that cannot be generalized to the total population. Now, what I would say here, just as we have the probability sampling, whereby your sampling is based on um, randomization, where you just randomly select, all right? But in the case of non-probability, it doesn't work that way. You have to be intentional about selection because it is believed that when you randomly select, yes, it might save you time, all right, very far, but when you randomly select, it might not be accurate. All right, so the non-probability sampling is of the opinion that it is better to make your selection intentional, well planned, in order to foster accuracy. All right, that's what the non-probability sampling is all about. We have non-prob sampling. All right, selection is not random. Selection is not random. So we have that as that. So some of the techniques you employ when it comes to sampling, some of the techniques we have simple random sampling, all right, is based on the principle that divides the fact that individuals are chosen from a target population such that each an equal chance of being selected and each choice is independent of the other. So that's just what is by simple random sampling. For simple random sampling, it is believed that everyone has equal chance. All right, from the population, no one is better and no one is picked based on an improved, advanced, or added advantage over others. Every random variable has the chance to be selected, and no decision is influenced by any element. So if a variable is picked, it's just based on the intentionality of the researcher. So that is the simple random sampling. Then we have the systematic sampling. It's said to be if your target population can be accurately listed, then this method can be used to get what approximates a random sample. All right. It consists of selection of a particular number from the list. All right. When we talk about systematic now, you are being intentional about your approach to things. All right. Your approach are not just done out of tuition, all right, or out of what we call based on your discretion. No, you are being systematic. Then you are considering certain, all right, characteristics. You're considering certain points, all right, and this point will influence your decision. All right, what we say simple, the simple sampling. If nothing influences your decision, you just make your choice based on, all right, the fact that anyone picked is okay and good to go. But when it comes to systematic, you have to be intentional. You have to do your research. You have to make your findings in order to get to arrive at a particular conclusion. So we have that as that under the sampling technique. Now let's take a step further. We have statistics. All right. All of this now we are simply talking about. We said a lot about research, and we need to consider the calculation part of research. While we need to consider the let's say calculation part. I should have used the word the measurement part. All right. We've been talking about the collection of data, the arrangement of data. Now we need to know how these data are being analyzed, calculated, all right, and their results, how are they properly being used to foster the research. So we have statistics now. And as we all know, statistics is a very good tool when it comes to research. All right. It's said to be a basic tool for measurement, all right, evaluation, and research. It's a basic tool. Now, this concept we are referring to is sometimes used to describe the numerical data that are collected. Statistical data describe group individual, all right, behavior or characteristics abstracted from a number of individual observations that are combined to make generalization possible. So basically, when it comes to statistics, these are figures, numericals, numbers collected, all right, through several means, all right. So based on this figure, based on these numbers, certain conclusion can be made, certain generalization can be arrived at based on the fact that these are decisions made, all right, upon the availability of numbers, all right, the use of statistical tool, which we now talk about. For our Kel for Kallinga in 1971, Kallinga is of the opinion that statistics is considered the theory and method of analyzing data. All right, and why do you do this data analysis? Because you want to obtain from samples and observation, all right, in order to describe population, study to study and compare the sources of variance, and to help the decision to accept or reject relations among phenomena. Definitely, with the help of statistics, you can tell what is what, then you can make a conclusion if you have to accept or reject information, all right, from the observation you have carried out. So let's write something on. It's a basic tool of measurement is a basic tool of measurement. Statistics. It is a basic tool of measurement. And is just as we have, according to Kinga, all right, Kallinga, according to Kallinga says something which we need to pay particular attention. Kallinga believes, Kallinga, like I said earlier, so let's do that again. Are we together? So Kallinga believes that's 1971, is of the opinion that when we speak statistics, we are intentional about, all right, data collection, analyzing them, and using them to make decisions. So without further ado, I think we are very close to completing tonight's class. So we have the measure of central tendency. All right, the measure of central tendency. Central tendency. So under this measure of central tendency, what we must have heard of when we were doing S6205 and statistics 206, under it we have measuring tools, all right, like mean, median, and mode. All right, mean, median, and we have mode. All of these we did in our statistics class, proper calculations with a lot of illustrations and examples. All right, if you need aid on that, do have to let us know so we can send you the statistics class and you can get more acquainted. Now, for mean, I'll talk about mean. It is the arithmetic average of the value in a distribution. All right, arithmetic average. I think we'll do our revision we'll organize a class for calculation only. All right, then we do all the calculations on this. So under central tendency, measure of central tendency, we have the main media and we have the mode. All right, and to do some a little bit of extension, we have measure of variability or dispersion, and this is where we have the range, mean, deviation, and variance and standard deviation. So, lastly for tonight, we have some tests which we start to start with. We have, all right. After everything is done, there are certain things you need to put your research through in order to accept or reject a hypothesis. All right. So to start with, there's something we call the null hypothesis. All right. And for the null hypothesis, it says that if there is no significant difference to relationship between two or more parameters, then it is considered with the judgment as to whether apparent differences or relationship are true or whether they are merely results of sampling error. Now, when you propose for statistic purpose a null hypothesis, all right, we have the alternative hypothesis. Now, what are we seeing here? Speaking of parameter or parametric tests, all right, they are very powerful tests in statistics, all right, and should be what preferentially used in their base assumptions are not. All right, they are preferentially used if their base assumptions are not. Now, the assumptions are related to the nature of the population distribution and on the way to quantify the data observation. These are tests that determine whether you are to accept or reject the results, all right, of your hypothesis. So I think in our last class I said something about null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. So now, just like I said, if it can either be a null hypothesis, all right, or an alternative hypothesis. And if there is no significance or level of relationship, then we can go for the we can reject, which is null hypothesis. But if there's significance, all right, and there's relationship, then we can accept, which is alternate hypothesis. So we have that as that. So I think we'll wrap here. But just before we call it a wrap, all right, there's a arrangement for project work, all right, and there are different parts of the report you should make if possible, all right, as you make it easy for whoever is reading your project work to understand. So there are some formats that you're expected to use, all right. Starting with the first thing when you're writing your project is the preliminary pages, all right. Under these preliminary pages we have title page, acceptance and approval page, dedication, acknowledgement, abstract. Then you have your table of content, list of tables, list of figures, list of appendix. All right, then we now have the chapter one. Then inside the chapter one, you have certain things there. You have chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. And even after all that, you have your some summary and you have your summary and conclusion. We have general conclusion. We have your appendix. You have your index and the likes. So, like I said, if you haven't joined the private classes, do well to join the private class so you can gain the access to all these helpful resources. All right, like the keynote and the past questions and the one-on-one class. Here is what we call wrap for tonight. Thank you very much, everyone. Like I said earlier, it's not going to be longer because we almost done with the course. Do have a wonderful evening, and by the next time we are meeting, it's going to be another course entirely. Bye for now.